Good evening, brothers and sisters. I just watched a video, and to tell you the truth, it scared me so much. I don't know, I'm not supposed to fear, but you shall not have no fear. But it was by Lisa Haven, and her guest speaker was Dave Hodges. And they were talking about the threat that happened to Donald Trump, that if he was to win the election, that an EMP would be set off. So, an EMP, if some of you don't know, if you were to look at the United States on Google Earth at night, and you would see all these lights everywhere, an EMP would make that completely black. But there is a way that the EMP could just localize its burst. But what Dave Hodges is saying is that he has recently spoke to a couple of workers who work at one works at one nuclear power plant, the other works at the other, and they had just recently contacted him within the last 48 hours. They don't know each other, but they both contacted him and said that the DHS and NERC were doing drills, and that they were really freaked out, that they were unprepared for what could happen if an EMP were to take place. And one of these nuclear power plants is in, it's called the Palo Verde power plant, and it's the biggest in the United States. And what is so ridiculous about this, it was built in 1988, and it was made, the location of it is in the middle of the desert. And of course, nuclear power plants, in order to cool the fuel rods, they need water, a water source nearby, like Fukushima. Okay, so they had to keep pumping in seawater to try and cool down the fuel rods. Okay, but still, that didn't help very much, right? Okay, so this one is located near the Gila River, and the Gila River is only full if we have a good rainy season. If there's a good rainy season, which only happens in the summer months, and this year has been very, very dry. You get one day here and there where it rains a lot, but it's not like it used to be. The monsoons that happen in this area are not like they used to be. So I'm not sure, but I would kind of guess that if we didn't get a lot of rain, which we didn't. We got rain today, but still, it's not enough to keep the river flowing, and the river comes from another source, and we have to rely on that water to fill up the river. And that's, if you look at a picture, I'm sorry I can't show you a picture, but I looked up a picture of where this plant is, an aerial picture, and there's the water basin there that you can see, but if it's a dry summer like it has been, then they're not going to have enough water to pump into the fuel rods to keep them cool over a period of however long the power is out. And they need power to suck in the water and put it in the fuel rods. They need power in order to do that, and they're not gonna. I mean, if there's a blackout, I mean, that's what an EMP does. It blacks out. It's like you're living in perpetual darkness. And so where are they going to get the power to do that? To pump the water from the river into the fuel rods. And that's very scary things that are happening. And that's all just if Trump gets elected. And so these are the globalists that are doing this. They're doing anything they can to stop him from getting into office. And it's just wrong, because I'm not going to go either way with Hillary. Well, of course I'm going to go against Hillary, but I'm not going to go towards Trump. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in voting. I believe that Yahuwah, he puts people where they are supposed to be for his mighty purpose, to get things where they need to be. So who knows what's going to happen? Nobody on earth knows. The only one that really knows is Yahweh. So let's put our faith in him. Let's pray about this. Let's pray for protection of, because this plant, it provides power to not only Arizona, in Arizona, it provides power to the major metropolitan areas like Phoenix and Tucson, but it also gives power to California, Southern California. So they would also be out of power at that time. So let's see, just a second here. Okay, so if this were to happen, if this EMP were to happen over our area, it would be like sending us into a 10,000 year white nuclear winter. And also it would let's see, and I'm getting these quotes, just to mention, from Dave Hodges, and they're not full quotes, they're just kind of snippets. So it says, the video is Lisa Haven, Dave Hodges insider. Trump is told EMP to halt election if Trump is elected. The globalists are so desperate that they would essentially send us into 10,000 years of nuclear winter. Power plants need water to cool down their fuel rods. And this Palo Verde plant was made in 1988 in the middle of the desert. The only water source it has is the Gila River, and that's hardly enough water to keep it cool for as long as it would need to be cool if an EMP went off. And let's see, it would be he likened it, Dave Hodges likened it to being like 124 Fukushimas at one point, poisoning the United States. And I don't think the enemies want to do that, because if they wanted to take over our land, I don't think they could wait 10,000 years. If they just wanted to kill us and they let that happen, well, there's this thing called the jet stream, where the wind travels around the earth, and Therefore, whatever is here, nuclear-wise, is going to go worldwide, just like what happened in Fukushima. So, I mean, already in California, they're finding dead ecosystems in the water, and they're finding radiation levels even far inland. So it would be like 124 of those Fukushima incidences poisoning us. Okay, so they're trying to see if they have the ability to maintain the fuel rods. So that's what's going on right now. They're trying to, with the DHS and the NERC, the NERC drills, they're trying to see if they have the ability to maintain the cooling of the fuel rods. And they are scared to death. Okay? They know that an EMP is coming. They know this. I don't know where they're getting their information, but this is what, once again, Dave Hodges has said. It says that they won't put an EMP blast over the entire nation, because obviously they would do it over key areas to we want to be able to withstand outage. But another thing that's really crazy is that they built these power plants along the fault lines. Okay? So that's another crazy thing that just doesn't make sense. Who built these things? Who is planning these things? I need a sip of water. Who planned this stuff? You know, to build it over a fault line. Nuclear power plants. I mean, if an earthquake happened, that's basically what happened in Fukushima. There was an earthquake. There was a tsunami. There's disaster. So they think building along the fault lines is basically a way of speeding up depopulation. And I was gonna play some clips, but I think I just need to talk right now. I don't want to deal with that right now. They want to take down the grid and blame Russia for starting World War III. So what you need to do right now is prepare yourself and your family. You need to get food, you need to get water, you need to get toiletries, you need to get camping gear, okay? Because if you don't have power, you're gonna need a grill, you're gonna need coal, you're gonna need camping gear to hold over that stuff, to boil your water. You're gonna need tons of water, okay? If this actually happens, you're gonna need tons of water. You're gonna need canned food. You're gonna need, dried food as well, like dried milk and dried rice and dried potatoes and just dried everything. And that means that you're gonna need even more water, because you're gonna have to add water to those dried things when you cook them. Dried beans or canned beans. You need to think about what's gonna give you the most protein. You need to have something that makes a complete protein. Okay? So, like, what makes a complete protein? beans, corn, and rice. Beans, corn, and rice makes a full protein. You can get that canned, beans and corn. You can get dried rice or potatoes. Get canned food, stock up on it. Get water, stock up on it any way you can. Keep it in a safe place. I don't know what to tell you about your computers if an EMP goes off. I do know that they do have these EMP bags that are basically foil, because if you wrap your phone in foil, which I tried this once, I wrapped my phone in foil about this long. My phone's about this big, and I wrapped it in foil, and it totally blocked the signal. Because when I unwrapped it in the morning, there was no signal, and then it took a few seconds for it to come on. So, if you want to protect your devices, if and when this happens, I pray that it doesn't, but we have to be prepared. So, I want you guys to be prepared. So, maybe even try wrapping your computer in foil, aluminum foil. It may work. Or get the bags if you can afford it. But if you can't afford it, aluminum foil. I haven't tried it on my computer yet, but then again, we haven't had an EMP, have we? Let's see. Well, we're also being attacked by chemtrails, and I know a lot of you know that. I discovered it about 13 years ago. I was watching the NASA channel, actually, and they were talking about chemtrails. And I was very surprised to see that NASA would be talking about chemtrails. But from then, it just kind of went dull for a while, and I told my mom about this, and then eventually, just a few years ago, actually, she got on and started looking up about chemtrails, and we see them a lot, but somehow they're disguising them. They're doing it's almost like a fart out of a plane, okay? So they used to do these huge things where you'd see crisscrosses all across the sky, and my mom has pictures of this, and I've taken pictures of this, and but then it's like people start complaining about it, and then you see the planes, but they're just doing little farts out their planes, and because contrails, not chemtrails, but contrails are short behind the plane, but chemtrails come out both sides. There's 4 spewers that come out of the back of the plane and spew tons and tons of heavy metals, chemicals, diseases, not diseases, but viruses. They're trying to kill us. They're trying to kill us with the air that we breathe. So it's almost like you don't want to go outside. It's almost like you can't go outside. You have to look outside every day and say, are they chemtrailing today? I'm sorry, hon, we can't go outside today, because they're chemtrailing. And it's pretty sad, because then we're stuck inside. And I don't want to make this too long. I want to hurry up and get through this. So people have been making bug out bags, and you can, if you believe in Yahweh, Yahuwah, then you need to believe that He's going to save you and keep you protected, and take stories from the Bible. I mean, when the woman had just enough oil and just enough flour to make it last for one more meal, and then she and her son were going to die. But it miraculously lasted for as long as they needed it to. So we need to think that way. We need to think that what we have is going to last us as long as we need it to. But we also need to prepare and get things that we need to have on hand. First aid kits, food, canned food, dried food, water, just basic stuff to survive. Toiletries. I mean, so, boy, I know a lot of people would really love to live in the country. I know my mom would. And so would I. I would love to live out in the country and not so close to a city. And so close to any kind of power plant. I don't want to live close to a power plant. I mean, that's just scary. But we are where we are. And we have to believe that Yahweh is going to protect us wherever we are, if we are His true followers. So, yeah. So, let's see. Did I miss it? Okay. I was writing really fast. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read. So, what might happen in the near future could be martial law, could be the start of World War III, which we don't know when it's going to start or how long it's going to last or what's going to start martial law. We don't know what's going to start it. Or we don't know what's going to start World War III. But people are trying to point the finger this way and that way. Oh, Russia. Okay. And people are trying to put Trump and Vladimir Putin as buddies. Like they're all, give me a big bear hug. Oh. But Trump is a rich man. He's got businesses. He's running for president. That's basically it. He's running against Hillary Clinton. That's all I have to say about it. I only voted once, and I will never vote again. This is my last page of notes, so I'm going to try and rush through it here. Your votes don't count. Anyway. Okay? Presidents are selected, not elected. That was a quote from some famous person I can't remember. It was a famous old person. It was a long time ago, but I can't remember who it was from. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, your votes don't count, and they're gonna take all the people. Since I'm not registered to vote, okay, I bet somebody out there is going to take my name and go and vote in my place. But the votes don't count because the globalists are trying to, as hard as hell, to put whoever they want in office, which is they want Hillary. They don't want Trump, but they want Hillary. I don't want Hillary. I want Yahweh. I I want Yahweh. Woo! I want Yeshua. I want Yahushua to be our king and our leader and our politician. Our leader of our politics. And our government of the world. That's what I want. I don't want this Democrat, Republican stuff going on. I want Yahweh's kingdom to be here, which it is going to be here on earth, on the renewed earth, if you don't know that. It's not going to be up in heaven, it's going to be down here. The New Jerusalem is going to come down from heaven like a bride adorned for her husband. Okay? And it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be so beautiful. The Father and the Son are going to be side by side. There's going to be a river running through it. There's going to be fruit from the trees that we can eat off of. And everything is going to be, I just picture it as gold everywhere. Golden everywhere inside the New Jerusalem. Inside the city of New Jerusalem. Gold everywhere with the river running through it. And the trees. And, beautifulness. That's what I picture, and that's what I dream about, and that's what I want more than anything in the world. I mean, these things that are coming to pass, or that may come to pass, they're scary, but, we shouldn't be afraid, because death is but a moment. It's a blink of an eye. I mean, once you're dead, and if you are in Yahushua's name, if you're dead in the Messiah's name, then when you wake up, the next thing you will know will be the kingdom. It will be in the blink of an eye. So, that's something to look forward to. And also, if we do survive, those who do survive will be caught up. I mean, the 2 witnesses do have to come before the resurrection. They are going to preach for 3.5 years. They are going to be killed. They are going to lay in the street dead for 3.5 days. And then everyone will look at them. And then they will be resurrected. And as soon as that happens, the rest of those who are dead in the name of Yahushua, will be resurrected. Okay. I think let's see if I have anything else to go on here before I wanted to just play a clip real quick from this video of Lisa Havens from a certain point, because it has to do with where my family is. They're in Alaska. Part of my family is in Alaska, so it's at 20.07. If I can get there. My finger's cramping up. I have arthritis. I know I look young, but I have arthritis. My fingers get all knocked up. Okay, let's see if I can get it a little bit closer. Okay, there. I'm going to start it here. And here we go.
And like I said, Gary Haven and I agree on 90% of what's coming. And I think that the Chinese have a lot to say about...
I'm sorry, this is Dave Hodges speaking from Lisa Haven's video. Dave Hodges, insider. Trump told EMP to halt election if he's selected. So if you want to look up the whole entire video, it is about an hour long. I'm just going to play a little part of it that talks about Alaska, okay?
This, and they think they own this country because of the debt. And they don't want a totally destroyed, hollowed out country, although they don't mind if some of the major metropolitan areas were to be destroyed through an EMP in those communities. So I think what the general said's right. We're going to see a partial EMP and a general takedown of the grid. And you know what's interesting about this? There was a drill, there were two drills that were done, three drills, 13, 14, and 15, 2013, 14, and 15, called Grid X 1, 2, and 3. And Obama is such a traitor that he brought the Russians and the Chinese in to observe. In other words, what they did was they did a simulated takedown of the grid and how emergency services could respond and so forth, which they can't. They're powerless if this happens. But we let the Russians and the Chinese see how we could take our own grid down. And this is, I'm telling you, Lisa, this stuff is not coincidental. You let the Russians see how to take down the grid, and you take down the grid, now you get to blame the Russians. Well, it started even before that. 2011, the Russian foreign minister and FEMA reached a bilateral agreement to bring the very first 15,000 Russian troops in. But there were already Russian troops here. They're in Alaska. I hear from people in Alaska a lot about Russian troop sightings in their own towns, like Ketchikan, Alaska, and so forth. And there's Chinese troops there as well. In fact, Obama has obliterated the defenses of Alaska. And people say, well, it's going to be Red Dawn. Well, it could be Red Dawn when we get invaded, but it's going to start through Alaska. And the reason I say that, in 2010, Obama gave away 7 oil-rich islands that our nation owned, and all 7 were very oil-rich, but also 2 of them were strategic to the invasion of Alaska. He also suspended the F-22 coastline overflights and cited oxygen uptake problems, but didn't replace them with the available F-16s at the time. He's taken the nuclear submarine patrols in that area and reduced them to almost zero. And I'm getting this from people inside the submarine fleet that contacted me when I reported on the islands. And the closing of the military bases in Alaska, which is really should be considered to be a front line of defense against the Russians, they're closing bases left and right. The BRAC Commission is under Obama's authority. And it's so bad that the governor of Alaska 4 years ago formed his own commission to try to keep the bases open. Alaska is being left defenseless because they're going to be overrun by a Russian invasion. And the Russians have a strong presence at the North Pole with troops there. I've written a lot about that in the past. They're going to swoop down from the north. They're going to come across the Bering Strait, and they're going to invade from those 2 islands. It's going to be a 3-pronged attack, and then they'll make their way down the coastline and into the United States. That'll be the first portal of entry when we go to war. And listen, I've had military person after military person confirm that scenario.
What are the current relations between, Obama and Putin? I know they're somewhat at ends. I mean, is it more of a globalist agenda, or?
I think they're both puppets.
Yeah.
On one hand, you've got the U.S. ready to face off against the Russians in Syria. That's contrived. I mean, these men should be talking about joint cooperative efforts so our planes don't start shooting down their planes and vice versa. So it's a very contrived situation, which is very volatile. It's powder keg. And you've got Russian troops on our soil, allegedly to help us with disaster preparation. Like, what happened to the National Guard in America? Did they all go on vacation? We don't need the Russians here. They're not here for that. They're here for martial law, and they're here for gun confiscation training. That's why they're here. And I think that Putin and Obama are controlled by the same globalist bankers, and they're playing a script that will lead to World War III. You see, people write to me and say, Dave, how can we be facing off against the Russians around the world and then we're letting them in our country? I can't believe they're in our country. And I just said, you don't understand. Putin and Obama may appear to be at odds with each other on the surface, but they're really playing for the same team.
Here's the other thing that I've often thought, going kind of back to the beginning of this, when you talked about, Red Dawn or, those kinds of invasions. I mean, they will easily blame it on the Russians, as they've done with pretty much all the other stuff recently. They're obviously trying to instigate something, be it planned or, which obviously it would be, but, maybe that's why. I don't know did you ever see that movie Revolution? Or it was a series, a TV series.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they had this. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Lisa. That's a very astute point on your part, because
I haven't seen this TV series at all, and I'm glad. So they're going to explain what happens, and basically I wrote a couple notes that it's basically about, it's on NBC, it's about brainwashing, and what happens to start all of this is an EMP event. So just keep on listening to this sound clip, because I do not know how to make video clips yet, so I'm sorry. And this is taking a little bit of a long time, I'm sorry.
Revolution's ratings were through the roof.
Yep.
They were number one in their time slot the entire time they were on the air. And all of a sudden, boom, they're canceled. No warning. It was just the end. And what were they doing in the last year to get canceled? They were doing brainwashing techniques in FEMA camps. They were doing the breakup of the United States and intersectional factionalism that was fighting a civil war. And you had East Coast versus Texas and everybody in between. And it was a fight also to control nuclear weapons. I mean, it was riveting. Revolution was a great show. And when it went off the air, it was number one. That's because somebody went to the Nothing But Crap network, that's what I call NBC, and they said, you're pulling this. You're getting too close to the truth, and we can't let the people see this.
Yep, absolutely. Same with like Amerigeddon, you know.
Well, you know what? What started Revolution? An EMP type of event.
Yeah.
Remember the whole grid went down?
Yeah.
Planes crashed from the sky. Remember that? And water wouldn't run out of the sinks and so forth. I mean, this was really, really accurate. I'm actually surprised they let it stay on the air that long.
See, that's why you need to stock up on water. And because I get freaked out every time my mom turns the irrigation on, because I'm like, what's wrong with the water pressure? If I turn the sink on to try and wash my hands, I'm like, the water's barely coming out, and I'm like, what's going on with the water pressure? I'm like, do you have the irrigation on? Okay, good. Just checking.
I'll tell you another show that people should be paying attention to is The Last Ship. And it's on TNT on Sunday nights. Now, they just had their last show for the season. They've renewed for seasons 4 and 5. I've never seen anyone renew for 2 seasons in a row, but they did. And here's The Last Ship. Here's what the premise was. The whole series started out with a virus wiping out 80% of the planet. And these guys on this destroyer in the Navy are going around. They invent the cure with a doctor they have on board. And they fight against all the people who want nefarious stuff. But here's what they've done in the last year on The Last Ship. The United States government was canceled and broke up into factions. And they did a presidential assassination to accomplish it. Oh, it was unbelievable. I'm watching this stuff and I'm thinking, there's some pretty strong messages going on here with predictive programming.
And they're all about predictive programming. And they're all about... Our government is very aware of brainwashing techniques, and they're using it in the media, they're using it in propaganda. I mean, they're using it in all kinds of ways, especially in our school system. So we have a bunch of people that are...
Okay, this is what I wanted to talk about also after listening to this part of the video that Lisa Haven made. The propaganda in our schools. I mean, even when you're... Okay, my son went to 2 preschools, 2 years of preschool, and then kindergarten. And after kindergarten, I took him out because it was just so horrible. He wasn't getting the attention that he deserved. He wasn't getting any help or teaching at all from his teacher. He would come home with a paper that was completely blank with a big fat 0 on it, because no one told him or was teaching him at the school. The teacher wasn't teaching him. And how can a teacher teach a class of 30 kids? I'm homeschooling, and it's hard enough to teach one child math. And I'm good at math, but it is hard to teach math. Everything else, I mean, he's excellent at. And he's thriving at it. And like English, the language arts, he's thriving at those things. And math is getting better, and I'm so glad that I'm homeschooling, but at the same time, there is this propaganda that's being pushed and pushed and pushed, and it has to do with, well, like right now we're dealing with the Renaissance in 3rd grade. Okay, so it talks a lot about the Pope. They are trying to push this indoctrinating ideals into the children's mind about this Pope, that it was the head of the Christian church. But no. The Pope is the head of the Catholic Church, not the Christian church. Okay? And there's a big difference between, I believe there's a big difference between Catholic and Christian. True Christians. I mean, true Bible believers. The Pope is in place of the Christ. That's what it means. That's what his title is. It's in place of, instead of, anti-Christ. So basically the Pope is the Antichrist. But they're saying that he was the head of the Christian church. No, the head of the Christian church is the Messiah. It's Yahushua. It was a Jew, a Hebrew, okay? He was a Jew, okay? But he was our Savior. And the word Savior, when you translate it, you get Christ in the Greek. He's our Messiah. The Pope is not our Messiah. And people have been treating the Pope like the Messiah because he's the one in place of Christ. Since Yahushua rose up to the Father's hand, they had to pick somebody on earth to take his place. And that is completely wrong. Completely wrong. It's a sin. So, yeah, they keep talking about, and this is K-12, so they keep talking about how the Pope is the head of the Christian church in the Middle Ages. No. The Pope is the head of the Catholic Church. He is he lives in Vatican City. And he is the Antichrist. He is not the Christ. He is the Antichrist. There are not supposed to be any rabbis either. Yahushua was our only rabbi teacher. That's why they called him Rabbi Teacher. Okay, this video is getting way too long. I pretty much got through all my notes there, and I'm so glad I did, because it's going to take probably about 15 hours to upload. So I just want to say that I hope Yahweh blesses you, all of you who follow our Savior, Yahushua, and our Father, Yahuwah, and all of you out there who keep the Creator's calendar. I hope you had a wonderful, it already happened, because of the harvest moon. We already had the Feast of Tabernacles. So I hope that you all had a wonderful Feast of Tabernacles. And I hope that that you all are protected. I'm going to say a little prayer for you now. Dear Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Yahuwah, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, which is your word, and forgive us of our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And forgive us of our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the power and the glory and the honor, forever and ever. Amen. Shalom and peace.